So Mag underwent a bunch of changes as part of the Veilbreaker update, and oh boy, she got buffed. More than I ever expected her to be, because I thought she was already really strong. We're here in the simulacrum. I'm going to go through all of the buffs, mainly the 3 that I wanted to see first, and compare and contrast with what DE actually did, and then we'll go from there, because there's a few other things that they did as well. The first thing that I wanted to see DE do for Mag was to actually make a change to Pull's secondary effect, where if you killed enemies with Pull, there was a chance to drop energy. It was on kill, which obviously never worked. So, what did DE do? Well, if we go and have a look at our abilities tab, and then we go to Pull, you will notice that something is missing. The energy drop chance stat is now gone from this particular stat sheet. If memory serves, it was already there in the first place. It is now gone, which means, as far as I can tell, it is no longer part of Pull, which means that DE actually nerfed Mag. No! I gotta make a Reddit thread about this! Ah! Instead, what DE actually did was they basically took out the bullet jump part of her vacuum, so basically she has universal vacuum instead. Not exactly the fix that I would go for this particular kind of change, but whatever. The second change that I wanted to see was a synergy between Magnetize and Pull. So, let's have a look at what DE came up with. We're here in the simulacrum. So, basically the idea is, if I were to magnetize this one corrupted heavy gunner, and I wanted enemies to come into the magnetized bubble, I would just have to stand in the magnetized bubble and use Pull. It was essentially the same idea before, except the big difference now is that there is no chance for enemies to fly away from the Pull, i.e. fly too far after I use Pull. Because the idea is that Pull will basically grab enemies to me, and they will all clump up in front of me, which effectively makes it synergize with Magnetize. It's not the idea that every Mag main in the universe had, but it works. And then of course, finally, the final change that I wanted to see for Mag was a change to Defensive Magnetize to actually make it useful as it is shown in the trailer. So, what does it do now? Well, if we were to use the actual enemies that it used to not be defensive against, well, guess what? Defensive Magnetize actually now defends you against these Corpus enemies. But there is a bit of a range. It is a 120-degree cone, unaffected by power range as far as I can tell. So, if enemies are to your side, then of course that won't work. So, what other changes did they make for Mag? Well, one of the big changes that came with Mag is actually to do with Polarize, specifically to do with shards. They basically made shards useful. So, how do shards work now? Well, they're these great big things that will be floating on the ground that you can walk up to and pick up. Now, when you've picked them up, they will all be hovering around you, so that is going to be really useful as an indicator, essentially, of them being around you. You can also use Pull to pull the shards towards you, which is actually going to be important. Why? Because shards actually do damage to enemies if you happen to be really near them. And I do mean really near them, which basically makes them useful if you decide to play, you know, melee mag. Because they are effectively like an aura of shards that fly around and will do damage to nearby enemies who are close enough to you, because you are effectively playing melee mag. Now, what is the kind of damage that these shards do? Well, they're actually not doing a lot of damage. Instead, they're actually doing a lot of slash procs, which of course is very useful. If we were to use these shards against these corrupted heavy gunners by pulling them towards us like so, and then drop them in a magnetized bubble, which they can still be magnetized into, notice how a lot of enemies are now getting hundreds of slash procs. Maybe not that one. 50 slash procs, 70 slash procs, 40 slash procs, 50 slash procs, and they're all doing a bit of damage. It's not heavy hitting slash procs, but it is an absolute metric shit ton of slash procs. It's a lot of them, folks. It is in fact a lot of them. And in a similar fashion, if you're actually really close to them, then obviously, you know, these enemies will start getting quite a number of slash procs being applied to them. because I am using a Panzer Pop of Fire, obviously the Slash Proc will do even more damage because of Viral Proc, which is going to be really, really strong. So, for mag players, viral damage is always been good, but now it has been never better. And, in a similar fashion, these shards can actually be used inside a defensive magnetized bubble. Like so. They will now be floating around my defensive magnetized bubble, and the idea is that you can use these shards to effectively double the damage of your defensive magnetized bubble, I think. Hey guys, this is Kate the Editor. So defensive magnetize doesn't actually double damage when it has shards in it. Instead, it's actually just a flat head start bonus. When we use defensive magnetize with shards in it against these elite Juno crewmen, and we charge it up with the elite Juno crewmen's damage themselves, obviously we are going to pop off and kill these crewmen really, really easily because they are of course non-armored enemies. But what if we were to just actually use the defensive magnetize itself? When we actually had shards in it, it starts off at 6,000 damage. So that is of course pretty useful. But the big thing is that when we don't actually have any shards in it, it only starts at 300 damage. That's right, having shards inside your defensive magnetized bubble only provides a flat damage head start bonus, which I guess is going to be a huge thing for new players, but not really going to be a big thing for later game players. This is also affected by power strength as well, so more power strength means a bigger head start. As you can see here, with a non-sharded defensive magnetized bubble against these level 170 Juno elite crewmen, because of course they're still not armored and all that jazz, it's still easy enough to kill them, but you will just need to hold it for that much longer. So because it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, we're going to have to employ one of the things that I have always been yammering on about with Mag's kit, and that is something that actually received a massive buff. And that is in the form of Fracture and Crush. If we go up against the same enemies, we are going to do the exact same thing. We're going to produce our shards, pull them towards us, but then we're going to use Fracture and Crush. The big thing about Fracture and Crush is that the base armor strip for Fracture and Crush has been increased from 50% to 75% base. And because of the way that armor strip works now, there is no percentage of a percentage, which means even if you have no additional power strength, you will still be stripping 100% armor with 2 uses of Fracture and Crush. I am using the exact same build that I was using before, so there is an Umbral intensifier in there. What they did was they also took off the cap for Fracture and Crush, which means there is no such thing as too much power strength with regards to a cap. There is, however, such a thing as too much power strength for Mag with regards to just hitting 100% armor strip. So those are the big changes that came to Mag, which have effectively made Mag really, really strong. You can basically use shards as a way of supercharging your magnetized damage inside the damage over time. You can also use your magnetized bubble as a really cool way to just increase the amount of damage that your defensive magnetized bubble does, even though it doesn't do as much damage as a regular magnetized bubble, but still, you're still able to keep yourself alive against everything except for AoE explosions and melee attacks. You are also capable of fully armor stripping enemies with just 133% power strength. If you can find a way to arrange that, that'd be great. Although I would probably recommend not going for full armor strip. Instead, if you just use a single intensify, then against armored enemies, you are still then capable of producing shards from their still lightly armored bodies. Because if they don't have any armor, then you can't produce shards. But if they have shields, then you can still produce shards. So, you know, that's kind of something that I'm thinking about. Maybe I'm not going to go for full armor strip. Maybe I will be fine with 5-ish% armor strip, and then keeping the 5% remaining, which, let's be real here, unless you're going for level cap shenanigans, is not that much to begin with. We're going to keep that armor there for those enemies so that we can actually use something like Polarize to produce shards off them. So that could be really, really useful indeed. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Are you going to start using Mag? Because apparently not that many people did. It's wild to me that a Warframe this bloody strong got buffed. In much the same way that a Warframe as strong as Harrow got buffed as well, but hey, here we are. Mag was already one of my favorite Warframes, most favorite Warframes, frankly one of my most powerful Warframes, and she's stronger, which basically means that I'm stronger, and it feels good. The only thing that Mag still struggles with these days is going to be energy. Of course, there are a variety of solutions. My go-to solution at the present moment is Emergence Dissipate, but of course Dispensary, if you want to get rid of an ability, is obviously a solution, although the fact that Pool is now a lot better than it used to be kind of makes it difficult for me to recommend a particular ability to get rid of with regards to helmeting in abilities, but I probably still go with Paul, because the other abilities are still really useful. I still recommend all of the other abilities anyway, so yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one to try and figure out like which ability am I going to get rid of for a helmet ability. On top of that, Fracturing Crush is even stronger, which frankly wasn't necessary, but apparently not that many people used Fracturing Crush! And apparently some people didn't even know that Fracturing Crush existed. Bro time. But that's basically it. Let me know if you all this in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Warframe content, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye!
That's the one. Break it down, body and soul.